You are not who you used to be, but somewhere along the way, you stopped becoming and started performing. There is a version of you that learned to be quiet, or always agreeable, or effortlessly capable, or just fine. That version was smart. It kept you safe, but it was never supposed to be permanent, and now it might be the thing holding you still. Think back, not to a single moment, but to a climate, a home where love felt conditional, a classroom where being different had a cost, a family where emotions were inconvenient, a world that rewarded a particular kind of you and quietly punished the rest. Psychologists call what happened next adaptation. The developing self, still plastic, still forming, began to reorganize around what worked. If vulnerability brought rejection, you learned to project strength. If big emotions caused disruption, you learned to feel quietly, or not at all. If your needs went unmet, you learned to not need. This is what developmental psychologists call character armor, a term first coined by Wilhelm Reich. The idea is deceptively simple. The mind doesn't only adapt to the world, it hardens around the adaptations. What began as a temporary response becomes a permanent structure. And structures have walls. Walls keep things out, but they also keep things in. Here is what no one told you. The personality you developed wasn't a flaw. It was engineering. You observed your environment the way a scientist observes a system, and you built something functional. In attachment theory, this is understood as the formation of an internal working model, a subconscious map of how relationships and safety operate. You learned what to say to be accepted, what to hide to avoid conflict, what to become to be loved. That map was accurate for that terrain. The problem is, you are no longer in that terrain, but the map hasn't updated. Psychologist Carl Rogers called this the incongruence between the real self and the ideal self, the gap between who you actually are and who you believe you need to be safe. The wider that gap, the more energy it costs to maintain. The more exhausted you feel, the more hollow achievement becomes, the more connection feels like performance. Let's go deeper. Your brain has a remarkable system called the default mode network, a cluster of regions that activates when you're not focused on a task. It's the network that runs when you are simply being yourself. But here's what researchers have found. In individuals who experienced chronic stress or unpredictability in childhood, the default mode network becomes entangled with threat detection. Being yourself starts to feel dangerous. Neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett describes the brain as a prediction machine. It does not react to the world as it is, it reacts to the world as it was, based on a library of past experiences encoded during the most impressionable windows of your life. So when you feel that familiar tightness before speaking honestly, that is not weakness. That is an old prediction firing. The brain saying, last time we tried this, it hurt, and the nervous system bracing before you've even decided. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You cannot think your way out of a pattern that lives beneath thought. The survival personality doesn't live in your decisions, it lives in your defaults, in the way you shrink before you've even considered standing still, in the apology you issue before anyone has even complained, in the way you over-explain, over-perform, or disappear. These are not character flaws, they are neural pathways, grooved deep from use. So how do you begin to live beyond the personality you built to survive? Not by dismantling it, not by fighting it, but by gradually expanding what is possible alongside it. Here are 5 principles,
each one grounded in psychology. Principle 1. Name the pattern, not the person. Cognitive behavioral psychology tells us that awareness is the first lever of change, but most people misdirect their awareness. They say, "I am an anxious person." They should be saying, "I notice a pattern of anxiety activating in situations that resemble old ones." Language shapes identity. When you say, "I am," you close a door. When you say, "I notice," you open one. Principle 2. Locate the original contract. Every survival personality was formed around an implicit agreement. If I am small, I will be safe. If I am strong, I will be needed. If I am useful, I will be loved. Schema therapy, developed by Jeffrey Young, calls these early maladaptive schemas, core beliefs formed in childhood that continue to organize adult experience. Ask yourself quietly, what did I believe I had to be in order to belong? Is that still true? Principle 3. Widen your window of tolerance. Psychologist Dan Siegel introduced the concept of the window of tolerance, the emotional bandwidth within which you can function, connect, and think clearly. When your survival personality was formed under stress, that window narrows. You become either reactive, flooded, overwhelmed, or shut down, numb, distant, unavailable. Widening that window doesn't require a breakthrough. It requires small, repeated experiences of safety, telling a small truth and surviving it, expressing a need and not being abandoned for it, sitting with discomfort for 30 seconds longer than yesterday. The nervous system learns through experience, not instruction. Principle 4. Grieve the self you didn't get to be. This one is rarely spoken about. There is a part of you that was not allowed to develop, the curious one, the angry one, the soft one, the one who didn't perform. Psychoanalyst D.W. Winnicott called this the true self, the spontaneous, unguarded core of a person that becomes buried when the environment demands compliance. You cannot access what you have not mourned. Allowing yourself to grieve, not in self-pity, but in recognition, is an act of profound psychological honesty. It says something real was lost, and something real can still be found. Principle 5. Let the new self be clumsy. Neuroplasticity research confirms that the brain can form new pathways at any age, but new pathways are always awkward before they're automatic. The first time you set a boundary, it will feel wrong. The first time you let someone see your uncertainty, you may want to immediately take it back. The first time you don't rush to fill the silence will feel enormous. That discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is the feeling of a new neural pathway forming. It is biological. It is correct. Let's bring this together into one simple image. Think of the survival personality as a shell, not a prison, a shell. It formed because you were soft and the environment was hard, and it worked. It protected the most essential parts of you during the years when you couldn't afford to be exposed. But a shell has a second function that we forget. It is not only protection, it is scaffolding. The organism inside doesn't stay small forever. It grows, and as it grows, it moves into larger chambers without abandoning the shell, simply expanding beyond the last room it occupied. You do not need to destroy who you became to survive. You need to recognize that there are rooms in you you have not yet entered, rooms that were always there, waiting. Not for courage, not for the right moment, just for the recognition that you are no longer the person who needed to stay small. You built a remarkable shell, under pressure, with limited resources, when you were still learning what the world was. That deserves acknowledgement, not shame. And now, with more of the map visible, with more understanding of why you are the way you are, a different kind of building becomes possible. Not performance, not armor, something quieter and far more sustainable. The beginning of a life that is actually yours.